Hey, it's Mike Hambright with FlipNerd.com. Welcome back for another exciting VIP interview where I interview some of the most successful real estate investing experts and cool entrepreneurs in the industry to help you learn and grow. Today, I'm joined by an awesome guy, Jason Wojo, and we're going to discuss how to get to the real definition of success, whether you're a real estate investor or not. And even some very successful real estate investors may not be focused enough on being happy, health, things like that. And there's a lot of things that are really important to your overall success. We're going to talk about what the right measuring stick is today with Jason. Before we get started, though, let's take a moment to recognize our featured sponsors. RealtyMogul.com is an online marketplace for real estate investing, connecting borrowers and capital from accredited and institutional investors. Get a rehab loan fast and close in as little as 10 days. Rates start as low as 9%. We'd also like to thank National Real Estate Insurance Group, the nation's leading provider of insurance to the residential real estate investor market. From individual properties to large-scale investors, National Real Estate Insurance Group is ready to serve you. Please note, the views and opinions expressed by the individuals in this program do not necessarily reflect those of FlipNerd.com or any of its partners, advertisers, or affiliates. Please consult professionals before making any investment or tax decisions, as real estate investing can be risky. Hey, Jason. Glad to have you on the show.
Hey, how's it going, Mike?
Good. So glad you're here. What's interesting for me is we've done over 100 shows now, and I think much more about the content and kind of tackling areas that we haven't necessarily talked about. And we definitely have had some other folks on the show that talk about lifestyle a bit, but we haven't talked about it enough. It's an important topic, and I know that you've got some great advice and some great stories to share on that front. So, but for those that don't know you or don't know you well enough yet, why don't you kind of give us your background and talk about some of the things you're passionate about?
Yeah, that'd be great. Well, I started a little bit differently than a lot of investors. Most investors seem to be fed up with low-paying jobs and realize the potential and the value that real estate can bring to their lives. So they really start going to that way. I started by being an overeducated overachiever. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I decided to stay in school while I was planning my path. So, I'm looking back, I have 2 bachelor's degrees, a master's degree, and a PhD. Okay. None of which I do anything with right now.
Yeah.
So, so basically that was like an incubator for me to think about what I wanted to do. I was so unsure, nothing seemed to fit. And I was working for the Navy up in DC, and I did my first flip. And I had made in that first flip what it took me a full year's salary to make. So I made, I think, like 33 grand in that first flip. My salary was 70-ish. I'm like, what am I working for? And that was the first little aha moment for me that I was on the wrong path. So once I finished that job, that's when I really went into investing full time. But what I'm not telling you is during those college years, I was a very blessed, successful bodybuilder. I had won state level and national level contests. So I was training people. And what I had thought was that by getting people in great shape, I could change their lives. People that were overweight or maybe just wanted to do a contest or whatever it was, I figured that people getting in great shape would change everything. I realized that wasn't true. Yeah. I hear stories of, I don't have time to go to the gym. I don't have time to do cardio. I can't afford grass-fed or organic foods. So then I'm like, okay, I'm doing pretty good in investing. Maybe I'll start coaching them on how to be real estate investors. Yeah. So I started that. And guess what? That didn't work either. So now I'm having people that were in good shape and were still making really good money in investing. A lot of times, even part-time, they weren't ready to overcome the fear of letting go of their job. So they're making money, in great shape, their life still was out of balance. Yeah. And this is what got me really thinking, what am I missing? What's that magic ingredient that people are missing and they're still unhappy? Their lives are upside down. Their divorces are, rampant. Yeah. Relationships are suffering. Everything's kind of falling apart. And that's when I realized something was really wrong. And that's my coaching and through working with Life and Air, and we'll talk about that later, that really kind of put it all together for me. And that's what I do now full time.
Yeah, it's kind of a three. I guess it's kind of a three-legged stool, right?
It really is.
Yeah.
People focus on one thing, like making money or their health or a relationship. Now, relationship is great too, but if you're missing any of these things, the whole thing just collapses.
Yeah, yeah. And I think for a lot of real estate investors, I mean, me included, in all honesty, I've been so hell bent on being successful as a real estate investor for all these years, and we've succeeded. I mean, by every measure, we've run a great business. But things start to suffer. Like, are you spending enough time with your family? Are you focused on your health enough? And, all those things are important. And even for me, I realized that, I've only been focused maybe on one or two legs of that stool, and it's just not complete. So how do you think, in your experience, how do you bring all three of those things together? Or kind of what causes a natural tendency to just focus on one and not the others?
I think what you need to do is look at why we are really involved in one thing more than others. For instance, men, especially entrepreneurs, real estate investors, we get consumed with the work because it meets some of our needs. And a lot of times, if you're familiar with something called 6 Human Needs Psychology, Tony Robbins is really famous for this. We find significance in our job. We find certainty that we're good at it. We can make a lot of money. We find another need is uncertainty. So when you're doing a flip, you don't know what's going to happen. You may open up that wall and find out you need to replace whatever X, Y, Z.
Right.
So it meets a lot of these needs. So what people do is they tend to be attracted to the things where they feel best about, where they feel most successful, most important. If a guy goes home to his wife and he's emasculated and she doesn't make him feel important, a lot of times that causes him to further withdraw. Or if he's not establishing a bond with those kids, because he's not there, now the kids maybe have some built up, not resentment, but a little bit of alienation. Now he doesn't feel that immediate gratification that he does when he's flipping a house. And now he withdraws even more, and it causes a larger chasm. Yeah. So we tend, and so what I think it really comes down to is crafting a vision really of what you want your life to look like.
Yeah.
Because most of us spend more time planning our rehabs than we do our lives.
Yeah.
To us it's a matter of, we have a materials list, a scope of work, all these detailed plans, and we schedule subs and everything. How many of us put any of that fraction of effort into our lives? Like, what do we really want to do? And I think that's the first step is first of all, being honest with yourself. Where am I? What's suffering? What's being neglected? And then really honestly being honest with yourself and coming up with a vision of, if I had 6 months to live, what would I want to have people say about me?
Yeah.
And if they had to tell the truth. Now, everyone said, someone dies, everyone's, oh, he's such a great person. We all know, Joe was an a-hole,
yeah,
or whatever it was. But if people couldn't lie about you, what do you want people to say about you?
Right.
What do you want to experience? What do you want your most precious and loved ones to think about you? I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, it's funny. What you're saying resonates a lot with me, and not that I intend to focus much of this interview on me, but I've always talked. I mentor and coach a lot of people. And one of the things that I have them do is really kind of prepare their goals for their business. And unless they share that with me, and if they're upset about something, I don't know what your goals are, I don't know how to help you. I can't see that roadmap. Yeah. What is it you're trying to accomplish? And in the back of my mind, and I probably said it out loud a few times, it's just like a trainer at the gym, which I've never hired. And I don't, it's, in some ways I don't want to be held accountable for my health, so I don't plan that. But recently I did. I made some goals of what I wanted to achieve, and I wanted to, lose some weight and do certain things. I started to weigh myself daily and track everything, track what I'm eating. And you start to see amazing results just because I was tracking it and I had a plan. And up until recently, I didn't, subconsciously at least, I probably didn't want to be held accountable. But,
right, because it's going to reveal some things that you maybe are going to be uncomfortable with.
Yeah. I mean, talk a little bit about that. I mean, do you think that subconsciously there are some folks that they know they need to have a plan, but they just don't want to get it in writing because they don't want to be held accountable because one reason or another they don't think they have time or whatever that might be?
I think you really made an important point, is that people have this sense of, if I plan this out, well, first of all, go a step back. Most people really, when you really question them on it, they have no idea what they want to do,
right,
what they want their life to look like. They give very generic answers. I have students that I'll ask them, what do you like to do aside from work? And they don't know. They're like, I love work. And I'm like, well, you love work, but it's for certain reasons. What else do you enjoy doing?
Yeah.
They can't think of it. I have to go back to when they were a teenager or, single digit age until they really can figure out what they like.
Right.
So people have forgotten. That's the first thing. Second of all is I think there really is, like you said, a big fear of being accountable to those things. And this is one of the reasons why you see, I believe, certain kinds of people start to gravitate towards similar types of people, is because if you have someone who is an overachiever and who's really doing great things and things are happening, they're moving or shaker, the person who's not doing that is not really going to want to be around them too much, because it's going to start to make them question their own lives and really examine what are they doing. So that's why I think those, and it's also a positive reinforcing cycle too. So, people that are doing great things tend to be attracted to those other people. Meanwhile, the people that aren't doing things prefer to kind of bury their head in the sand sometimes, and they're not ready to deal with it. It could be fear. It could be, a lot of different. I think fear is probably the biggest one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really tough to do that sometimes and be honest with yourself.
Yeah, yeah. So, kind of talk about the three areas that you focus on, and how you kind of advise people to start to create, I guess, a measuring stick, if you will, to how to feel, not just feel successful or feel like you're making progress, but actually make progress. So
the tagline I came up with that I think is the best encompassing one that I could creatively think of was transform your body, business, and beliefs.
Okay.
The body to me is the foundation. So if you're unhealthy, it doesn't matter how much time you have, it doesn't matter how much money you have, it doesn't matter how great your relationships are. They're all going to suffer, because we all know someone that's had undue stress on their life because of unhealthy choices that they made, whether it's a heart attack or they can't, go to the beach with their grandkids or whatever it is, they're in the hospital constantly. So health has to be the absolute first thing. And I'm not saying you have to look like a pro bodybuilder. You don't have to have 4% body fat to be in shape or to be healthy. So some people really like that. That's great, but it doesn't have to be that way. Right. So that's the first thing. The second one is your business, and by business, I mean any method that you choose that's going to make you an income, that's going to provide for you and the needs you want. And that's a whole nother thing, is, without getting too far off topic, and I know you see this too, is where people are just spend crazy. They're living above their means. Yeah. And they're creating a mountain of debt that's just going to catch up with them. And, I've been blessed to be a financial coach in my church. And so I see the real details of people's, balance statements in their lives and everything. And a lot of times it's sad. It's really sad. But so you got to keep, that's a whole nother discussion. But, for us, business could be real estate. It could be wholesales. It could be rehabs, whatever, right. New construction or internet marketing, however you can make money.
Right.
And so that needs to be pivotal. And in my opinion, most people cannot live the life they want working a full-time job. That's just the reality of it. I think it's just too much time. Yeah. So the average person gets home at 6 o'clock. By the time they eat dinner, it's 8 o'clock. They have an hour or two with their kids, and they have the weekends, which are spent doing errands. Right. Unless you love your job and you figure out a really creative way to implement that with your life, it's really tough. So you got to make a good income in a part-time effort. And the last part of the whole transform your body, business, beliefs is beliefs. And that is not only what you're capable of, but what's important. If you're spiritual, that's another huge component of that as well. Sure. And how to overcome those limiting fears that we all have. And we've all been conditioned from a very young age, and how to fit it all together. Do you have an attitude of gratitude? The Zig Ziglar quote. Or are we constantly looking at the negatives and what we don't have? I think that ties it all together.
Yeah. And I know, not that people need to make their living from real estate, and I know that's a big part of your life, and it's definitely a big part of my life. Do you think it's exacerbated for real estate investors because it tends to be such a feast or famine business?
It really is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You could. I mean,
everybody is constantly trying to feast because they're worried about the famine, which may never come for some people, but you just worry about it. Yeah.
That is absolutely true. You could have a huge payday, and then all of a sudden you don't get a paycheck for 3 months.
Right.
So and that's a huge thing of it, and the whole business is cyclical. Yeah. So that's it. And I tell you, Steve Cook, one of my mentors, gave me a great tip. I don't know why I didn't think of this myself. He has himself on payroll. So he's like, every month I pay myself whatever, $3,000 instead of taking that, 40, 50 grand profit, I'm paying myself $3,000 a month. I learned to budget it, add some stability. My wife is happy, because, women love stability.
Yeah.
So you really need to provide that for them. And that's a great idea for that, but you're totally right.
Yeah. So where do you advise people to kind of get started that feel like they're out of balance? I mean, if we think about the people that listen to the show, it's all over the board, from people that want to get started in real estate investing and want to be able to create that environment where they're not relying upon somebody else for their well-being, like a regular job, if you will. And then there's people that are real estate investors now, like myself, that maybe have a business that does really well, but you're missing some of those other components, or you're not focused enough on them. I mean, how do you kind of advise people to start laying this framework out and thinking about all those things that are important in their life?
Well, once you create the general vision, what I like to do then is have people get more specific with subcategories, whether it's health, relationships, business, your spiritual life. Give a detailed assessment of where you are right now, and then when you look at and have it rank them all on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, am I happy on a 1 to 10 with my health and my physique and my body? How about my business? Where do I feel like my relationships are? And once you kind of rank them according to how you are in that particular moment, you can start to kind of look at what needs attention. Now, not everybody needs attention in the same areas, and that's a trick, because you could have somebody who has great relationships and is in great shape, but their business needs work, or they are killing it business-wise, but the relationships are suffering, they're in shape. So it's kind of like almost like a juggling act. But once you identify, first of all, which of those categories needs the most attention, it has to be a very careful shift in resources. Resources meaning attention, focus, and being deliberate without necessarily rocking the boat too much in those other categories. Yeah. So the trick here is we all have a limited amount of time and attention. So one of the things I've been guilty of in the past is I have too many different businesses on my plate. And I realize you're laughing because you're probably the same way.
It's hard to say no to opportunities.
Yeah,
that's one of the things that I learned from reading Life and Air was, how to try to say no. And, I on one hand, you feel so blessed that you have opportunities and you build relationships with people, and it's hard to say no sometimes because you know that you could help them or that you could benefit from it from a deal, but you have an opportunity cost of your time, right? You can't do everything, sure. So it's a challenge.
It absolutely is. And that's exactly why we need a vision. So we can go back to that vision. So I'll give you an example. I have my realtor's license. I use it predominantly for investing, although I'll help out a friend here and there when they want to get something in a house. I had this guy approach me about he has an international investor who wants to buy, they're looking for a realtor, and they're looking to buy 10 to 20 properties a month. That would be great money, but that is not what my vision is. Yeah. And even though that could be really it could be really profitable, I have to say no. It's not my vision. Now, the trick to all this is the real catch-22 is when you are not producing the income you need yet to get over that hump. It's so easy to say yes. Right. But the question we need to ask ourselves, if we have many things on our plate, are we not making money on these 6 different things because none of them are working well, in that our focus is too diluted? Or are we not making money in any of them because not one of them is the right thing? So say, for instance, how do you know you're picking the right one? And that's a fear all of us have. Like, gosh, I have these 6 different things. None of them is killing it. So I don't have a clear-cut picture of where I want to go. But at the same token, now we're only able to give 15% of our attention here, 20% over here, 30% over here. And maybe that's the whole reason why we're not producing in any of them. So it's kind of it's a really tough spot when you're getting out of that first spot, that over the hump, and getting your. So that's one of the hard spots people get stuck in.
Yeah. So you say you kind of write out your vision in those 3 areas of your life, and focus on, you start to, I guess, put in place an action plan as to how you're going to get to the point to where you want to be, right?
Right. So let's use a simple example. Say, if your goal is physique or body, your health, okay. what do I have to do? First of all, what do I want to accomplish? Is it a weight goal, which I'm not necessarily a big fan of because it doesn't have any indication of body composition, but whatever. Say you want to lose 15 pounds of fat. How are you going to do that? Okay, well, let's see. Look at my schedule. I'm going to go to the gym Monday, Wednesday, Friday and work out for an hour. I'm going to follow this diet. If your say your relationship with your husband or wife is really bad, okay, how can I make this better? What do they feel is missing? Well, maybe it's the connection isn't there. They say you don't spend enough time with them. Okay, well, we will do a date night, Saturday night and Wednesday night. And then you stick to that, or it's concrete actionable steps, like you said, to get you to that goal that you've said is important to you on your vision.
Right. And then, and I'm not trying to throw you softballs here because I don't know exactly what you're going to say, but I assume there has to be kind of a maintenance or checkup process where you kind of revisit that and say, did I make improvements? Is this even the right thing? And just to kind of review what your goals are, just like you would if you were financially planning, right? You would say, well, this is my goal, and almost have like a thermometer, right? Well, I'm here and my goal's here, and so I need more donations or whatever it might be. So
that's a great point. Just like you want to check up on the status of your rehab, your vision is your long-term, completely idealistic. Don't hold anything back.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're making $5 an hour now. If you say you want to do X, Y, or Z, don't even pay any attention to your circumstances. That being said, those goals are often, not all the time, and this catches a lot of people, but a lot of times they're pretty lofty. So you need waypoints along that along that path to check and make sure you're doing things the right path.
Right.
So to keep yourself accountable. And another huge part of this is, we said earlier about being around certain kinds of people, kind of gravitate around each other. This is where it's so important to have that accountability and have people that support you, encourage you, and are on their own path and pursuing it vigilantly so that you're kind of inspired and motivated too.
Right. Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of folks that have just some deconstructive behavior where they're I need to think of a PC way to say this, but where they may feel successful, but it's because of who they've surrounded themselves with. They're the tallest midget in the room, if you will.
Right.
But that may pull you back from achieving what it is that you want to achieve by not surrounding yourself with people that you maybe can aspire to be more like.
And that's a great point too. Is when you look at who's around you, is it a false sense of success?
Right.
Are they measuring you? So are your friends measuring you and your worth and your value on how much money you make?
Yeah.
Because if that's true, you're going to pursue those means to impress your friends, because we all have this need for connection. So now they're kind of, in a way, it's just going to repeat itself, and it's become a cycle where they're going to reinforce those negative behaviors. So it's important to be around people that have the right path. And this, I think when you mentioned Life in Air, I'm not just a Life in Air coach, but I'm also a student of the, I feel like I should have said the Hair Club for Men thing right there.
I was thinking the same thing. That's funny.
Yeah. But, I've been...
If you were, I may use some of your services.
Right.
So, yeah.
You're all set, man. You don't need it.
Oh, you don't see the big comb over I've got going on.
Yeah. So,
Not yet.
I'm in a Life in Air group too. We have a retreat coming up in September, and you have to constantly feed it. It's like, it's a process. That seed gets planted, but then you need to water it. You need to tender the soil. You need to provide the sunshine, and it's only when all those ingredients are there that it makes it, the most achievable.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on, a lot of entrepreneurs like us, there's some people that I know that, and you've got to respect it, that they use whatever they're doing to facilitate their life. And that's how it should be. For me, real estate has never, even though I love it, there's nothing better than getting a good deal, feeling like you're putting out a good product, ringing the register. All those things are awesome. But for me, it's always been a means to the end, which is always just about security, or feeling that you have the ability to do what you love, which is travel, things that for my family, that's what it is. But what about, you always feel like, back to the kind of feast or famine mentality, that it's, and not everybody feels this way, but I'm the type of guy that it's never enough. I want to achieve something more, and it's not even that I need it. I tend to live well below my means, but I want to. It's not just about the money. It's about building something that you can be really proud of, or that I don't know what it is. There's some fulfillment that I'm looking for there, but I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs like that. They always want to take it to another level, even if they don't need it financially for themselves, because they just feel like they're not complete yet until they've created whatever that is. And maybe you never get there, because then your goals go to the next level.
That, man, I am so glad you said that, because so I have a friend down here that I coach. He has a metal fabrication company. He started off in North Carolina. He now has expanded up to Massachusetts, Florida, Atlanta, and he's killing himself now. Yeah. And his life is falling apart. And he's like, man, I don't know why, but I'm a guy. I just love to grow it as big as I can, just to see if I can do it.
Right.
And it's a drive, because it's and honestly, it's purely significance driven. It is based on insecurities that all of us have at some point, to prove it either to others or ourselves that we can do it. Like, we doubt ourselves, and there's a good chance that at some point, we have wondered if we are enough, if we can do it. And at some point, it's like, I'm trying to think of an analogy here, and there's one at the top of my head, but the point is, that's a very, very dangerous slope.
Yeah.
Because while accomplishment is a great thing, like you said at the beginning, is we have to remember this is a vehicle.
Right.
Our life isn't real estate investing. It's not to build a fortress. And I commonly think of people that have built amazing things. Look at Steve Jobs, but he didn't really necessarily have the greatest life, if you think about it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things he missed out on. So this is completely my opinion, but I think at the end of it all, when they're on our deathbed, we are not going to say, man, I'm so proud of myself. I built this huge, real estate empire. I think we're going to look at the people around us and be like, wow, I really wish I had spent more time with them and got to know them better and had more memories to share with them.
Yeah.
And that's my opinion. Other people maybe don't feel that way, but I think it's a deeper level of fulfillment than you can get from growing that empire. Yeah. Now, that being said, some people just have to accomplish that first, and then they kind of set back,
yeah.
and with the confidence that they've done it and they're cool with it. But it's a very, very dangerous slope to get into, because a lot of times it's never enough.
Right.
You will keep pursuing it till the end of days.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Jason, we're about out of time. Time's flying by. This is a great conversation. But give me some feedback on where people can learn more about some of the great stuff you're doing, and maybe learn more about some of the frameworks to kind of help put their life in perspective and get the right measuring stick for them.
I'd say the two best places you could go would be to my website, jasonwojo.com. I discuss, body business beliefs, and have a blog up and discuss all these different things, as well as, product services, all that kind of stuff that people can find beneficial. Also, head over to lifeinair.com.
Yeah.
That's Life in Air. Instead of millionaire life, you have a lot of life instead of a lot of money, which both aren't bad, but it's where our priorities are. So head over there as well, and you can really learn a lot about, at the very least, it'll help you and maybe prompt you to examine if you're on the right path or not.
Yeah, that's great. I told Sean this. I picked up Life in Air a couple months ago, and I literally read it in one sitting. For some reason, I couldn't put it down. It was funny because at the very beginning, it said the character was a 39-year-old. It's like, I'm 39. It's like, I read a couple things. I was like, wait, it's like, this is me. So I just, and there's things in there, just like every book, that you may resonate more than others, but some of it was, sure, for me, was just the whole thing of, hey, I'm successful by most measures, but there was a time when I was sitting at a stoplight with my wife, and I just met with somebody that I mentor, and they're like, when I talk about what they want to achieve, they're like, I want to be as successful as you. I was like, that's always weird when you kind of hear that. And then I was at a stoplight thinking I was like, I don't feel successful. Like, something's missing, Yeah. And so I think it's important for everybody to kind of analyze that every once in a while.
Absolutely, man. And I'll just leave you with this. I love John Maxwell's definition of success. He says, success is knowing your purpose growing to fulfill your potential, and then sowing seeds to benefit other people.
Yeah.
So that really brings it full circle, because really we're not just here for us. We're here to enrich everyone around us as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, hey, Jason, thanks so much for your time today. We're going to add links to your website down below so folks can find you and maybe learn a little bit more about the great stuff you're doing. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, Mike. Take care.
All right, have a great day. Are you a member of FlipNerd.com, the most robust real estate investing platform in existence, where you can find off-market wholesale deals and great vendors literally in your market? You can get access to advice from experts and learn about local clubs and events right in your backyard. If not, please visit FlipNerd.com and register for a free account. You can register in less than a minute. It's pretty much the coolest site that's ever existed in the real estate investing industry, so get on over to FlipNerd.com.